Hey Bullets YouTube channel.
Hurry up, now tell us why you're here.
Austin Drafton is upset that he can't qualify for many races, and Terry Cargis would get flipped in practice by Rex Revler. Why? Wait, why? And Craig Shiftright from the hospital would remove Rex Revler from Pancake Shiftright Racing, and then Slate Granger and Ace Arrowhead would wreck each other in practice. And then Tony Gasworth would convince Kurt Busch-Tire to come back to the Piston Cup. And then Brian Brooks wrecked Kurt Busch-Tire in practice. And then Kurt Busch-Tire would be out for 10 races as a result. And now Brian Brooks will be suspended for the rest of the season because of what he did. And then chose to retire from the Piston Cup. Hooray! And then Andrew Axler said this about Brian Brooks' retirement. And then Tony Gasworth would be out this race because of a qualifying crash. And then Tony Gasworth would say this: I also hope that Maury Clutchburn and Ernie Gearson do not have hard crashes like Tony Gasworth's this qualifying cycle. And Darren Ledfoot was disqualified because his fuel smelled too much! Now to the starting grid, where Lightning McQueen will start at pole position with Cal Weathers, who's outside. Row 2 has Bobby Swift and Brick Yardley. I wonder how they'll do this race. And in row 3, we've got Speedy Comet and Rex Revler, now without a team. Row 4 has Kevin Carvick and Martin Carrix Jr. to his outside. Behind them in row 5 is James Garrison and the jumper Doug Throttleman. I wonder if he'll jump this race. Row 6 has Terry Cargis. How did he do this well? And Casey Corner to his outside. Row 7 has Jamie McCarry and Jimmy Cables to his outside. I wonder how they'll do this race. Row 8 has Carl Clutchin and Matthew Overdrive to his outside. Behind them in row 9 is Chip Gearings and TG Castlenut. I wonder how they'll do this race. Row 10 has Phil Tankson and Dale Earnhardt Jr., who is fit to run this race. Row 11 has Tommy Highbanks, who did quite well in qualifying, and Todd Marcus to his outside. Row 12 has Greg People, who's finally back, and Ricky Axel to his outside. Row 13 has Kyle Carson and Jack DePost to his outside. Behind them in row 14 are the Garrison Motorsports teammates Jamarcus Cakart and Billy Carjoy. Row 15 has Maury Clutchburn, who's been in this competition since 1985, and Reb Meeker to his outside. Row 16 has Ralph Carlo and Cal Williams to his outside. Row 17 has another pair of Garrison Motorsports teammates, Sebastian Silva and Pitbull Speed Racer. Row 18 has Marcus Kranksler and Clint Bokar to his outside. Now on to row 19, where we've got Ernie Gearson and Rev Rodages. Hopefully they finish the race. Row 20 has a pair of racers making their first start this season, Mike Splatloper and Michael Botstroyer. Row 21 has Bobby Rodtesta and Arthur Carstro. And starting in 43rd is Paunchy Wipeout, who's actually won a Piston Cup race. These 8 cars, among many others, failed to qualify for this race. Now into the race, where Lightning McQueen would lead the first 36 laps of the race before losing the lead to Cal Weathers, who would lead until lap 54 before losing the lead to Lightning McQueen, who would lead for just 2 more laps before Bobby Swift would take the lead for himself, leading for 3 laps before Lightning McQueen would retake the lead, leading the field all the way until lap 97, where Cal Weathers would retake the lead. Cal would lead for 20 laps before Lightning McQueen would retake the lead for 2 laps before losing the lead to Bobby Swift, who would lead all the way until lap 163. Finally, a new leader on lap 163, Jimmy Cables would take the lead and lead for 4 laps before Speedy Comet would take the lead and lead for 2 laps. But Terry Cargis would be 19th as of lap 169, where he wrecks Greg People, Casey Corner, who's now out for the season, and Clint Bokar, who's also out for the season. As a result, Terry Cargis would be parked after the crash and will be suspended for 3 races because of the season-ending crashes that he caused, as well as Greg Peoples' crash. And Kenny Shiftright would ask his brother Clint to remove Terry Cargis from Pancake Shiftright Racing, and then Kenny Shiftright would say this about Terry Cargis. And then, after the restart, Brick Yardley would take the lead on lap 170 and lead for 16 laps before losing the lead to Lightning McQueen, who would lead for 3 more laps until lap 189, where James Garrison would take the lead for the first time this race. But on lap 193, Lightning McQueen would retake the lead. He would lead all the way until lap 228, where Phil Tankson would take the lead. He would lead for 9 laps before Speedy Comet would take the lead once again, leading all the way until lap 261, where Ernie Gearson would be out because of an engine failure. And then TG Castlenut would take the lead after the restart and lead until lap 280, where Murray Clutchburn would take the lead. He would lead off of pit cycles before Lightning McQueen would retake the lead yet again and lead until lap 318, where Kevin Carvick would take the lead. He would lead until lap 331, where Lightning McQueen would retake the lead once again and lead until lap 355, where Cal Weathers would take the lead. He would lead for 40 laps, but then, oh no! Cal Weathers would run out of fuel on lap 396, and this would lead Lightning McQueen to take the lead. But he would lose the lead later that lap to Phil Tankson, who would lead the final 4 laps of the race to win the 2016 Clutchade Cozsen 400, getting his 4th career victory. And his teammate Jack DePost will finish 2nd this race, followed by James Garrison in 3rd, Dale Earnhardt Jr. 4th, Brick Yardley 5th, Lightning McQueen 6th, Kevin Carvick 7th, Carl Clutchen 8th, Rex Revler 9th, and Chip Gearings rounding out the top 10, and Kyle Carson would be the last car to finish on the lead lap this race, finishing 38th. I already went over the top 10. Not too many cars led laps this race, so there's not much interesting here. But who finished 11th this race? Reb Meeker would finish 11th this race, followed by Bobby Swift, Jamie McCarry, Martin Carricks Jr., and Jimmy Cables rounding out the top 15, followed by Marcus Cranksler, and then Jamarcus Capehart, Billy Carjoy, Sebastian Silva, and Ponchi Wipeout in the top 20. Matthew Overdrive would finish 21st this race, getting 100 points, beating Todd Marcus and Cal Weathers, who had no fuel on the final lap. TG Castlenut and Maury Clutchburn would round out the top 25, followed by Ricky Axel, Tommy Highbanks, Arthur Castro, Ralph Carlo, and Bobby Rotesta in the top 30. Pitbull Speed Racer, Mike Splatloper, Kia Williams, Speedy Comet, and Michael Botstroyer finish in the top 35. Good job to Splatloper and Botstroyer for finishing in the top 35. Doug Throttleman, Rev Rodages, and Kyle Carson finish on the lead lap. And here is the top 20 in points, where Lightning McQueen has reclaimed the points lead ahead of Cal Weathers and Bobby Swift. Jimmy Cables is still 4th in points ahead of Brick Yardley, Kevin Carvick. Race winner Phil Tankson is currently 7th in points, followed by Martin Carricks Jr., James Garrison, and Kurt Bushtire, who missed this race, still in the top 10. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is currently 11th in points, followed by Jack DePost, Carl Clutchen, Ricky Axel, Murray Clutchburn, Doug Throttleman the Jumper, TG Castlenut, Reb Meeker, Kyle Carson, and Speedy Comet, 1 point ahead of Jamarcus Capehart.
Remember to press the notifications button, which goes ring, ring, ring after you press it. And lightning strikes back, and that's as if you subscribed, of course. And thank you for watching this entire video.
I feel bad for Garrison Motorsports because Jamarcus Capehart was only 1 point off of getting into the top 20. And it was Speedy Comet who was stopping them from getting to the top 20. Speedy Comet had a terrible finish to this race. But Jamarcus Capehart was too far behind him in points going into the race. But there are still 25 races left in the season, so Garrison Motorsports still has plenty of time to get more of the racers into the top 20. About more races, the 12th race of the 2016 Piston Cup season will be coming out soon enough. Did I say soon enough? I meant very soon. Unfortunately, the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine is still going on. The Ukrainian people just want to live in peace and have freedom, but this common dream was ruined by the tyrant and bully, Vladimir Putin. Currently, Vladimir Putin's tyranny rules around 1/5 of Ukraine's land, including Crimea, the Donbass, and parts of the Kharkiv, Zaporizhia, and Kherson Oblasts. But Vladimir Putin doesn't have everything going his way, as Ukraine controls parts of Russia's Kursk Oblasts and is now using North Korea's help to try to save them. And those soldiers aren't even ready for the war, which means that they should have been left alone. But every day, it gets harder for Ukraine to win the war because of dwindling supplies. We here at the K-Bullets Piston Cup YouTube channel stand with Ukraine in their struggle against Vladimir Putin's tyranny and recognize Ukraine's true borders as shown by this map. Slava Ukraini! Heroyam slava! Nechai Shvetsya Daroretsia! Ukraini Peremoa! Glory to Ukraine! Glory to the heroes! May Ukraine be granted victory very soon.